Okay. And see if I can get rid of unmute myself. That's interesting. Okay. We start off with, as I forgive me for going a little bit slow on the, have to do the sharing thing, switch back and forth between the sharing. You should be able to see the agenda up here now. No, we'll take it back down a second. Stacy, can you see that okay?
Yes, I can.
So welcome everybody to our February 2028 CPAD board meeting. We've got a number of subjects to cover today. I think you'll find. Yeah, Stacy, can you go ahead and mute yourself? Thank you. Yeah. Or somebody was making noise. Maybe it was you, Diane.
I think I'm muted.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks. So we got a number of subjects to cover this meeting, and I think it's kind of significant as we move forward into the long-termness of the airport here in our district. First of all, roll call for the directors. Terry is here.
Jeff's here.
Diane's here.
Excellent. Thank you, and we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Let me put up my flag for that. Okay, you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. What's that? Thank you. Okay. Thanks. Get back to the agenda. Everybody can see that. The next item on the agenda is a standard items is a review of tonight's agenda by the board. Just go through it briefly here. Please let me know if you have any comments here. Of course, following this will be the adoption of the minutes, finance report, airport manager's report, update on procurement of contracts. Again, this is our standard format here so far. Volunteer service report, public comment time, old business. I'm covering a number of items you can see on here. Old business, there is one I forgot to add on here, was a brief discussion on the election for the open board seats that will be coming up in November. Neglected to add on there. I said I'd have some more information on this meeting. New business for this meeting includes a proposal to transfer funds from our checking account to our airport restricted maintenance account. I have Canute's put together some material and showing how we've been doing over the last, I think it is 2 fiscal years. And this also relates to, as you see, when we talk about the ballot measure and the proposed tiers of how we handle funding to go in. And that's kind of, turns out that's kind of what we're doing tonight as we move into our restricted airport account. Second item be to initiate the actions for a ballot measure this coming November and start that process. I have discussion, got some information for the board to brief on here. Then probably some ones that should go fairly quick is just a proposal to revise our CPAD policy for the accounting procedure to include equipment capitalization policy. This is a response to a question that came up during their audit. It's like about a 2 or 3 sentence change. Another update to CPAD policy on personnel for employees. Came to our attention that the vacation policy that was shown in the CPAD policy was different than what we've actually, it says in the employment agreements. So that's just I think a relatively minor change. Any comments? Looks good, ready to go? Excellent. Okay, we're going to move on to minutes and I will bring that up.
Want to make a motion to
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm getting ahead of myself.
do the agenda as written. I'll second that.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. And in the minutes here, okay. Tell me, Jeff, you want to run through this?
Pardon me?
You want to run through the minutes there? Especially if I can go through it slowly.
I can go slowly, that's fine. Okay, meeting is called to order at 7:02. The agenda was adopted, motions,
Oops.
the meeting minutes were approved. Canute went through the financial report. There weren't any comments. Went through the airport managers reports. Good fuel sales, down slightly for January. 2 holes were cut in the fence by a transient, and Dominic was to fix those. The hoses were waiting for arrival on 1 new hose, and I believe it came in because I saw there's a note amount
Yeah.
for installation tomorrow, so that's good.
Excellent.
Nozzles on pump 2 and with 2 couplers are fixed. Reels were replaced. Good inspection on that. Working on the accounts to get them up to date with the new process for card keys and getting those accounts up. As of last month, we're about halfway through. Let's see, volunteer report, about 80 hours, and good participation in that. Glenn went through and was expressing some concerns over aircraft versus auto interactions on our streets in the air park. And Diane was going to go through and do some review of the CCNRs and find out what the CCNR ruling is. Old business, I presented a summary on local airport hangar prices and procedures for the finance committee. Let's see. There was first week in February, let's see, we were looking for a financial date to do the financial status to the general public, and so that was still TBD. Same thing for the fuel status for fuel repairs. No updates on obstruction mitigation or street jurisdiction processes. Audit, everything's been submitted to the auditors. Everything was good so far. Dominic presented some information on the Oakland fuel tanks with pictures. Glenn did a briefing on layout for the taxi painting on the runways. And I think we're going to do some, get some final numbers from the FAA or
Caltrans.
on Caltrans on that, what was required versus recommended. And Terry went through, we went through the 3 board positions that needed to be verified for the new year. Terry was unanimous president, Canute treasurer, and the secretary. And Eagle Scout project from Malcolm Cooksey was complete.
Excellent. Any comments? Covers it? It's okay. Then can make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. I mean, the minutes.
Second one.
Aye. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jeff. We go back to the agenda. I think that all I can do is do.
Could I make a suggestion, Terry?
Yes.
That you increase the size of and then remove the view of it like that. And
Good
if
suggestion.
you look at it, it's something like that. Maybe we'll full screen on it. Just so people can see it.
Yeah, better instead of seeing all my stuff on there. Yeah.
And then increase.
Get it to pop to 1. There it goes. Okay. Okay, everybody online should be able to see the agenda. Okay, with that, financial report.
Okay, you're gonna bring them up, or,
I will bring them up.
so I'm thinking, we can do the assessment district first, nothing. So we
Okay.
need balance sheet.
That's right. I can go into and just. I thought I had it up.
It's gotta be.
Oh, there it is. Okay, there it is. Okay, so I'm just going to the assessment district. Is it, what's up is the assessment district balance sheet. And full screen. Well, it's almost there. There it goes.
And then-
Huh. Let me see if I can get it bigger. You know, after a few years, we'll get this figured out.
Okay.
Okay.
I can do this fairly quickly. So the assessment district. We currently have the 112,000 between the reserve account and the redemption account. We need to have the 90,000, which we do in reserves, and as you will see, there is about $54,000 due from the district to transfer to the assessment district to pay off the loan. And there's a payment coming up here March 2nd, which is only the interest payment. The big payment again is in September. So at this point, we look good for both of those payments. So I think the assessment district is in good shape. So I don't know if there's much else. We pay the fees to the management company, which would be on the P&L, but that's the only posting on the P&L statement for that.
So we've got a payment coming up from this account for the interest. Then a big one in
March 2nd,
September.
and that's about $16,000.
So 16, and how much is one in September?
That's about 70,000.
70,000.
Principal and interest. And as I said, we have 54,000 sitting in the general account, which we'll see shortly, that needs to go
Okay.
to the AD account. So
Okay.
if you take the balance sheet for the airport district.
Okay, for that. Just one you want to see? Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see our general checking account has 187,000 in it right now, that the 54,000 needs to go to the assessment district. We have the airport reserve, and then Colorado County still has about $5,000 that they transfer at various points. We have the restricted airport reserve at about 25,000. We have the street restricted account at about 49,000. And then at the end of January, our fuel account with Epic was at $50,000. And we purchased fuel at the end of January. So I think we can transfer money to our general account maybe fairly soon.
Okay. But that's the fuel inventory. That's what we got on the ground.
I'm sorry.
This is, that's fuel inventory.
Right, and then you can see the inventory of fuel is pretty high too, because the other is 58,000 right there. So that's the represent the amount of fuel we got in the tanks. And if you scroll down a little bit more, you can see what is due to the assessment district right there.
Okay.
So it's the 54,000 that needs to go over to the assessment district. So, and I think those are the only kind of highlights that changes each time. So not much else to say. Any
Okay.
questions on the balance sheet?
So far, so good. And as a show when we get into the other presentation, we're talking about transferring some money into the restricted account. Any others when you want to run through here?
Let's do the P&L real quick. Versus, let's do versus actual. That one. So on the income side, everything looks pretty much on budget here. We haven't received the Caltrans grant yet, so assuming we get that, that'll be on point too. Fuel income looks about as expected. And all the other incomes, looks like we are slightly ahead on hangar income, and looks like Dominic is doing a good job on collecting miscellaneous income like tie-down fees, so we're doing pretty well on those as well. If we go down through the expenses, we have not spent as much on office equipment as we had estimated. And let's see, when it comes to repairs, we are currently slightly over budget at this point by about $1,000. But I just went through and reviewed how it was assigned. There's 2 fuel system repairs that incorrectly was posted under maintenance, which needs to go under fuel system maintenance.
Oh.
And that added up to about $1,400. So I already sent an email to the.
Okay,
accountant,
so next time it'll be this will, should be.
depending on what other maintenance there
Right.
might be, but, so that one looks like pretty much on target right now. If we go down a little further, I think the one to point out here is, let's see. The salary is below budget because we had 2.5 months without an airport manager. And if you keep going, let's see, oh, go up again a little bit. The clearing and tree services is below budget, so we haven't spent a lot of money on funding or doing anything on obstruction mitigation, but I don't know if we have any inspections coming up.
We don't know when the next inspection is. We haven't heard anything from them.
All right, but we probably still need to get on top and have progress made since the last inspection, right? So now, okay, but we have money in the budget for that still. We haven't used much this fiscal year so far. Insurance is pretty much on target, I think, so no surprises.
Let's see, I'm sorry, where's the insurance? Where's the insurance at? I'm sorry. Oh, there it is.
I'm sorry, I skipped the utilities,
Yeah.
but that's pretty much on as expected too. You keep going down. See what else can we call out? Nice, there's quite a few that's not at budget yet. There we go, fuel expenses, that's the one that's a little worrisome, right? So we spent 11,000, almost 12,000 on fuel system repairs. That's more than we budgeted, and then we have more added because it's not airport maintenance, so there's about another $1,400 added here, so currently we're about $6,000 over what we budgeted on fuel system repairs at this point. So, one of the big ones was the repair for the secondary containment for the tanks.
That's our fiberglass repair.
Yeah, exactly. I think they were out 3 times before they finally got it, where they could pass inspection. I think those are the main things. As you can see, CARES money. For this fiscal year, we have received a total of, what does that come out to, about, let's see, it was 32,000 plus 13, so $45,000 we've received in CARES grant for this fiscal year. So we'll get back to that in one of the next presentations. So I think that's it.
And that's the last time we'll see CARES grant money.
Likely.
Yeah, likely.
So I think that has been a big help, especially with all the expenses we had on obstruction mitigation.
Okay.
So at this point, I think we look good for this fiscal year so far, right? Except for fuel system repairs. So, right?
Well, and also, as you mentioned, we have not started any with obstruction mitigation yet. There's some repairs. Does this reflect the hangar repairs?
It should, at least $5,000 of it.
So the other outstanding repairs we have is really outstanding. The major thing is the obstruction. If we start going back on that,
Right.
the mitigation.
I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Back to the agenda. And I gotta get back to the window here. That's minutes, yeah. And next, yeah, Dominic, manager's report.
Hangar repair maintenance. 4/28 decided that they no longer wanted to talk to us anymore, so ordered our own springs and you helped me install the one that was failing. So that one's good. We just need to replace the other one on hanger 8. So those, at least the one that has been a problem, that was the spring that wasn't rated for the tension and it was under, it is now the proper spring. So just need to install the other one, which is fine for now. It's just rusty. We got to, so replace that one. Fuel sales, we sold 3,673 gallons, which is up 13% from last year. Pretty good. Fuel hose replacement status, got fuel hoses since the last time we had a meeting and finally got Johnson Petroleum to reach out. We're going to be coming out tomorrow. Supposed to be 8:30. He said it might be a little bit later than that, but he said 8:30 at the earliest to replace the hoses. So we'll finally have that replaced and taken care of.
So I think the way that they're going to have a way to save the fuel in those hoses. Or is
My
that-
idea is you can, since it goes through all the filtration system, you just
Back in the tank. Yeah.
yeah, as long as you don't put it in the white bucket.
Yes.
Anything like that isn't breaching outdoor containment or contamination. So it's just putting it right back in the system. They'll just get double filtered. So
That's what you're thinking, or is that Johnson?
Johnson.
Yeah.
Fence repair status. Basically, I just kind of sutured up the fence pretty much with the automatic zip ties. Made that way people can get through that. So it's good for right now. I need to actually go out and buy chain link fence to just repair that section. Key card status. So a drawback that has come back from it is that it's been updated for what I have in our system and computer. So all the numbers that I do have, those are in the system. If someone has a key card that I don't know the number of, I can't take them out of the system because I don't know any drawbacks for the system. I can't just wipe it clean
Yeah.
and then add people in. I need to manually go through and take out numbers.
Is that something when you go to their file and get their,
We have a list of all the people
you can
who,
have them bring it in and show it to you?
yeah, if I see that they're doing that, basically we've had a list that's been compiled by Kevin of all the people who have a key card. And I can run off of that list of all of those people, including new people who've done it, but if it's not on the list that Kevin had, like key cards that are out in the wild.
Oh, I get it.
I can't delete it.
You don't know that.
That number exists or anything. It's actually, it's in like 2000, like 500.
Is the key card system not smart enough to record entries and that kind of stuff?
The only thing the key card system does is it lets you in.
Lets you in,
It doesn't let you
okay.
in. Yeah. So,
One of the things that could be improved someday.
yes.
Yeah.
That would be, or at least just switching over to the number code could be saving money on having key cards out a lot. Just switching that. That's something that has been brought up that one of that.
I wonder if we could do some sort of like format-based interface where we could at will add or subtract phone numbers that would trigger the same contact response to OEA.
Yeah, there's a lot of different systems that we can go into and looking at. It's just when it's time when we're not spending money on other stuff, we can use it to upgrade the
Yeah.
gate system. But excuse me, other repairs, we were having a Sac Valley alarm system for those who monitor our fuel system. It eventually was calling AT&T and they sent out 2 technicians to fix it. And what the issue was is that it's bad phone line going from our system out to the box on the street. So they replaced that without charge. So
Did you
there's
pull
no
new
issue.
wires to them?
They, it was bad wiring in the box.
At the street?
At the street.
Ah,
yeah.
I see.
So they replaced that. That wasn't something that was on our property. So we didn't have any control over that. So they replaced it. So that wasn't an issue. One thing that has come up on that is looking into switching it over to a cell phone phone system, getting to the landlines. I have not followed up on that. But that's something that we need to do is switching it over and save money that way, get rid of some of the landlines there.
So what was this line going to?
It's an alarm system
Alarm
for if there's any don't want like fire or anything going on with our system.
And it was a secondary
It was a
line.
secondary alarm, so it's a follow-up for it, and it just kept failing over and over again, and eventually got AT&T out to fix it.
And I thank Canute for going out there
Yeah,
a number of times in the late at night and checking and clearing it.
eventually.
And I got a few calls and, yeah,
We had our AOS inspection last week, and everything seems to be fine, just getting the update that the next one is the triennial. So that's when they're gonna have, I believe it's someone from the counties out to inspect it as well, while they're going through
the county,
or is it
the BFA. Yeah.
The FAA, yeah, excuse me.
We get a bill for that yet?
We haven't gotten the bill yet for that previous one. No, that's just, they've come out and performed the maintenance on it. and everything.
No.
Cool, sliding and burning. DJ helped with that. He's pretty much going out there doing all himself, fighting the fire. He did a great job. It's just next time we're gonna make sure to actually send him out with someone to help him.
Yeah.
So, but,
The Tommy down my street to Bonanza's having to run into him today and he said, yeah, let me know when we're gonna.
yeah, so anyone who wants to help volunteer with that would be greatly appreciated.
We're probably gonna schedule something next week. I'm gonna talk to Dominic.
Okay.
So we can get something scheduled.
Just for, could you, for the folks on the phone and here, just review what the burning involves, what the help you're looking for.
It's just, we get the fire started and we just basically monitor, make sure that it stays under control.
There's already like piles that have been collected.
Yeah.
From previous work days and other situations. It's just making sure that it's all getting burned safely. It's getting slowed down because dirt and other vegetation problems.
So there's some piles off the end of what, 3-1, right? Up near
all
Oxford.
along the
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah. And so the help is stand out there with a shovel kind of thing, just kind of monitor it. And,
Yeah, and the north end of the field is done. We're pretty much got from midfield to the south and we'll be done.
so thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah.
I saw you out there in time, the smoke going and yeah, with your fire suit on and it was great. Yeah. Anything else?
That's it for now.
I have a quick question. One thing I forgot to mention, our fence and gate expenses are pretty high because of the car that ran.
Yeah.
Did we ever get any insurance money?
The insurance company is still running down on that. I don't know about, they're still trying to find the person. So it's trying to go after their insurance. for that.
All right, that's what I thought.
Okay.
because That's one that's over budget right now.
How much, what was, how much? Do you remember about how much you were over budget?
It's close to a couple of thousand. I think it was 2,500, and then we had some repairs on the gate there near Loma too.
On the gate or just on the fence?
Well, we've had some gate repairs too, haven't we? Maybe not. I forgot.
Is that what the ones Marion?
It's just been for the fence.
Okay.
In that corner on,
But we didn't have a lot of money set aside for it in the first.
Yeah, it's usually done. Yeah. That's a good question. Okay, just a question of the Johnson, what they're doing tomorrow, any costs? Did they give a kind of a ballpark on that? Or?
I didn't give a ballpark on it. I just knew that I went with calling them because when they came out to replace the coupling and the pumps.
Yeah.
The technician who's out there highly advised someone come out. to help them with
Yeah,
that.
they've been pretty
They
good.
have the tools for it. And then I would rather have them make the mistake in taking the hoses off and putting them back on versus me making a mistake and spilling hot gas all over.
Yeah, it could be a problem. Yeah.
So I'd rather
Yeah.
someone who knows what they're doing.
Good. Let's see, I think there's another question. So we'll move on to update procurement and contracts. And actually, the only thing we've got really going, but the hangar repairs you talked about is just to make sure clear, that's all done except for our screen replacement.
It's just so we can install the work 28 and pay for the work that
Okay.
they did. I was just trying to get them to come out and finish the job, but they never did, so for that.
Okay, done. And the signs.
Science, I called them today. we sent the check out with the last accounting cycle. They haven't received it yet, so they haven't sent the signs. It was sent out on the 18th. So that was about 2 weeks ago. So it's following up with them. And if they haven't received it, then they'll be contacting Anna to void the check that was sent out and then reissuing a check or putting it on the debit card that I have.
Then when those come in, we'll need volunteers to put them in.
Yeah.
Okay. For those on the event, just want to review what those signs, we presented them several months ago with them.
So the signs are pretty much, there's one sign that's double-sided for transient parking, because it's a frequent issue that people don't know where transient parking is, even though it's painted on the ground. So it's putting a sign up there so that to make sure that people know where it is, as well as it's putting up one sign over by Chuck Wall's house, instructing for minimal RPM entering the runway to avoid blasting his hanger, because that's a frequent issue that comes up. And then it is 6 other signs. One sign at each of the gates for the residential side, one at each end for the runway entering from one from the airport side, and then one from the far end as you taxi up for 1-3. And then another sign is you enter up from the fuel island, which is basically be a good neighbor and all our sound
Noise abatement.
noise abatement issues, just so that way it's showing for our neighbors that we're addressing.
Yeah, just to elaborate on that, we're getting complaints again from the one person up at north end. Had a discussion with Dominic, wanted to show a while ago, we went around and kind of took a survey of the signs that we had, and one of them was actually wrong as he turned at 1,800 feet. So we wanted to get those updated fairly quickly, given what the noise is going on, and to show that way we are doing our thing as the airport, because the signs up there, one was wrong and there's just not very many of them.
Yeah, and I was gonna bring it up in the report on the side, but the woman who was complaining, I explained her the situation of where her home is located. She's in the runway protection zone, and then the county zoned her house for residential, even though according to the FAA, there shouldn't be any residential or places for gathering even in that area. So it's just explaining that the county gave the exemption for that point, as well as her realtor should have explained to her that notice that the airport was there, overflight notification, all things that should have been brought to her in her extra paperwork. She said that she never seen it before, so that was just directing her to go and talk to her realtor about that. But from an airport standpoint, we're covered as well. These complaints that she's having.
It's good to remain calm, yeah. Just also back on the signs, these are the signs, they're aluminum, they come with aluminum, there's a silk screen, they're regular signs, yeah.
Yeah, they're outdoor signs.
Outdoor sign.
For being outdoor in the elements.
And we still, just added that, we're gonna address the signs within the residential area, the no parking signs, so still more signs to be done, yeah. Yeah. Good. Any questions for the airport manager? Okay, then we'll move on. Just a volunteer service report. Things kind of slowed down here. We're not doing any mowing. But just the list I put together, and I don't have any more information on it, just pulling together, but what I calculated was about 85 hours this month. Continued great support, PJ, and doing the burning, and managing the burning was big, but other things that went on was really a lot of stuff related to preparing the material not only for this meeting, but for the ballot stuff and the finance committee, the fuel system replacement ad hoc committee, which Phil is a part of there. And also the ad hoc committee, which Diane's leading on, I'm not sure we call it the risk management or risk management. Plus we'll be doing other ad hoc committees because they advertised on the email, put a little plug in for the ad hoc committees for the lease not negotiations, but revising the tie-down hangar leases, since some of them we don't have any. And also, we touched upon a little bit this time, which have one member so far filled for the street ad hoc committee to kind of take a good assessment of where we are with streets and maintenance wise, important information. But continue, the main thing is here, and Knut, I think will touch upon when we look at the finances and the balances, the importance of having the volunteers do this. We had to save a lot of money compared to what was done in the past. And we got a great looking airport. And I think the cutting and mowing will be picking up here very soon here. Any questions and comments? Let's move on to public comments. It's opened here. I'm going to limit the time and stuff. I won't read through the usual statements here. But is there any public comment from the folks here in attendance?
I can make one or two comments on the street ad hoc committee. I contacted what was California Pavement Maintenance called Dryco. They gave me a budgetary bid of 15 to 20 cents per square foot to reseal the roads, which came out to approximately $180,000 at current oil prices. And this was 10 days ago, so oil prices have fluctuated quite a bit in the last little bit. So for a seal coat that has aggregate in it, tiny aggregate, it's called steel coat, which would go into all the cracks and help fill any cracks that are currently there. And then seal the streets, 180 grand. They come in and do it, then any striping would be above that. So that is one report I can offer. And then if you want to talk about the fuel tanks, I can give her an update on that. I received a call from Hunt Brothers today that they have a Convol, 12,000 gallon Convol tank that they are willing to sell to us, that has been tested and cleaned, and where this is where it's sitting, and I think it's sitting down 100 miles from there, I'm not sure exactly, for $15,000. And so the cost of getting it up here is going to be a heavy lift crane, thing weighs 102,000 pounds. And
It's because it's cut, it's just to see the expression on JC's, it's because it's concrete. It's around it.
It's concrete. Yeah.
It's a rectangular box. It's not a circle tank.
It's approximately 8 feet wide, 9 feet tall, and 34 feet long. I am going to propose that we put it close to, but not adjacent to, the tower for the AWOS, and then excavate that property that's right in the general vicinity so we can set it lower. And that will get us down to about 4 feet above the grade by the AWOS tower. So that will make it pretty easy for us. I just got the dimensions today and I haven't had a chance to go out and see where it's going to end up. But it's 34 feet long. They gave me another budgetary bid, not including concrete, to have it here and operate for $100,000. So if you put in the concrete, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, probably looking at around $135,000 to $150,000 to have it in operation. That includes removing the existing tank.
So that's so where we are and as we formed, we go back up a little bit just as kind of a review more for everybody listening in. We've seen as a need to replace our underground tank because of the age. Even though it hasn't caused this problem, but we have had problems getting insurance. It represents a potential, think of a big risk, kind of almost a little. The risk grows every day as the tank gets old for a leak into the ground. That's the worst case. It is a double wall tank in the ground right now. The interspatial area does have an alarm in it. Fortunately, it's never gone off, and it's occasionally, I guess once a year we check it. simply see if there's anything in there. If water gets in there, it means water is leaking from the outside. That's a very bad thing. If gas is leaking there, that's also a very bad thing. And that kind of shuts it down. A few years ago, we couldn't renew an insurance policy on it. The insurance company was worried about the age of it. I did manage to get, I think we got a several-year policy on it right now. Is that, you know, that's one we got for 3 years or so to cover the tank?
That's not related to the fuel, that's just for 1 year at a time.
Okay.
That's
But
the airport liability insurance we have at a fixed rate.
that's right. I'm sorry, I got it mixed up then, yeah. So the concern was, you know, we got a potential problem. You know, if the tank leaks, that's a big expense to go out and clean it. If we can replace it before it leaks, that's obviously much better. We had formed an ad hoc committee, which we're always looking for members on there. And the ad hoc committees in the structure here as a special district are committees that come together for specific purposes. They don't have the reporting, the minutes, like everything you see that we have to go through. We held our kind of first meeting and had some actions coming out of that last week. Phil has been working his actions to look at the used tanks are out there. One other thing that came up is just really verifying what the real risk was associated as best we could. What is it with the tank? And we're still trying to research. It wasn't where we thought the information on the tanks, but to talk to Kevin today, I'll talk to you about it, where it could be.
I'll have to call Kevin because we don't have, from what Kevin has said, from the paperwork that he has, we do not have a serial number on it. I call Class Steel, they're the ones who put the tank in the ground, as you might see from the pictures. Told them the date that it was put in the ground and where it's located. I haven't received voicemail, so let's just wait.
Okay.
But yeah, I also contacted Epic so that they can get us a written form of their requirements.
So I don't want to turn this into a discussion, but the important thing is we're verifying what as best we can based on the documentation we find in the tank. Is it really a risk? Is it lying? You know, if it turns out, you know, you hear from people now just don't worry about it for another 10 years. Well, that saves us from spending the money. It allows us to collect more money to eventually replace. It will need to be replaced, and the county will not let us replace it with another underground system. So it's got to be above ground. So that's ongoing. Thank you, Phil, for pulling together.
Curious what the insurance costs now versus if it were an above ground system.
We don't have a quote for that.
Yeah, it's not a huge difference. Where we do save the money is the inspections. So having,
Paying into the environmental.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it does leak, then the cost associated with that leak is gonna be
It's very bad.
Yeah.
it's very bad.
I believe you have insurance to cover that.
And yeah, I don't know what the provisions around insurance, but yeah.
I think you
I
have
think we have
insurance
some,
in
yeah.
case there is a leak, because no one can afford to do the maintenance.
No,
It's
But there's
Lots of
very,
them.
very high deductible. on that.
Yeah, there's,
You gotta
yeah.
make fuel like that.
And we got a lot of water.
Well, it's a steel tank with another steel tank around that, and then that's all encapsulated in concrete. It makes it where you can run a semi truck into it, you're not gonna hurt the tank, but you can do a lot of damage.
What's the life of
Yeah.
They haven't come up with a life, they warranty them new for 30 years. That's the warranty. So I would expect at least 1.5 to 2 times the warranty, you know.
You know how old this one is?
Don't know yet.
Does it come with a point of sale? Point of sale part?
Well, that's the 100,000 is installed minus the concrete. And then I added a little bit of money in there for any fluff that we want. In other words, we want
We,
right.
because with that tank, we still got to run plumbing over the existing tank. So there's other work to do. The high number looking is a quote we got for a new tank from Mascot Engineering to put the tanks at Lincoln, 12,000 gallon tank, the round with the canopy, all integrated. It's on the skid. You got to prepare the site, of course. You drop it in, plug it in, fill the gas, and you're on your way. That came out to about 156,000, including tax, and then roughly about 150 to 160,000 additional dollars to remove the tank, the engineering, transport and so forth. So it's about a $300,000 and so total compared to what could be this one for about half the price. Half the cost.
They gave us a price on that same tank new that we're getting, they've offered us for $15,000, it's $80,000.
Yeah, it's a tank, yeah. So this is part of the ongoing study. The ad hoc is taking a look at the big picture. You still got financing issues. You got to have the money to buy it.
You brought up a few different tanks that you've helped locate on the used market. How often, how regularly do these become available?
Never heard. They're not something that you go, you know, well, we don't want our tank anymore, let's get rid of it.
I don't want to lose sight of opportunities here.
This is something that this vendor has 2 or 3 tanks, used tanks a year. So, and they're very.
So this is the question. I'd like to move on to the other stuff, because it's good material, but I say if we still, we got to be able to afford it. We do. Yeah. So, and the first step is to solve about the tank issue. Any on the folks online, any comments? Okay, hearing none.
I do have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I don't know if this is the correct forum for this or not. This isn't for discussion today because it wasn't on the agenda, but just putting it on there so that it's on discussion for next month. Summer Spectacular, they came out, the Cameron Park Services District came out and said about a month ago, it's back on, we're going to have it. And then a couple weeks ago, it's nowhere to be found again. So a couple folks called them up to said, finally get a current status on it. And apparently they voted, that board voted to put it on and then dropped the ball and nobody started acting on it. And so now they realize that their time is going to be short. And so they haven't committed to it yet. So seeing how things are going to be running short, I think we need to probably address the parking, because that's one of the issues that our district has some jurisdiction over, is making sure that they give them permission to, you know, park 1,000 cars in there for an afternoon. So
What is the summer spectacular?
it's a big fireworks.
Is that the 4th of July?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's usually about a week or so before.
It's the Saturday. So
Right.
they had it on the, initially they had it on the calendar for the 25th of June. So it's like a week and 2 days before the 4th. But probably need to get it on the agenda, and I'll reach out to them and say, hey, if you're going to have this, you need to let us know so that we can approve it as a board, or not, you know, not assuming anything, but at least bring it up and get a have board discussion on it.
I was trying to figure, maybe my memory short. Did we vote on that years before? Do you recall? Okay, so it is, yeah. But you're going to contact them then?
I'll
Okay.
contact them this week and
Okay.
have them submit something to us.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Okay, moving on to old business. And we already covered much of it here on the committees. The Flight Hills Center changed their lease. I had was it was we're going to make a disposition this month. I'm not prepared for that. Still informing the lease committee, because it's a bigger picture, not just their lease of everything. Because if you Jeff ran through his kind of survey of what we had, the leases and the rent rates. You know, we had cases, we got hangars without leases at all, and it's kind of that's when I handle it in the big picture and thing. That, and of course, along with the rates in there. So I'm going to punt down the areas. It's just simply nothing was done at this point. We talked about fuel system replacement. Yeah, I just mentioned the hangar lease. If there's any other people interested in supporting these committees, these ad hoc committees, so far for the hangar lease, I just got 3 people here so far on that.
I believe Danny's in. I think he's our neighbor across.
Okay, so it's for 4 people. Okay, so we're going to get that going. We got some good representation there. Diane, any update on Airport operating.
Oh, the risk management team. I don't have any formal update today. We did meet, yeah, Dave Becker and Dominic and myself, and, you know, dug into, you know, the next level. And one of the things we wanted us to look at was the RV and the two ones that we were concerned about security, moreover. And it comes down to it is we're gonna need defense and barbed wire, the RV. So we're gonna come back with a proposal, but Dominic, Dave, and I all took away action items that we're working on, but we can't require that they do it. And, you know, that's gonna be our only way. So it's gonna cost money. We may be able to do it as a grant. David mentioned that Minden got a grant for its security, but it would be, again, it would be after the airport layout plan, and that we have enough funding that we can actually get over that hurdle to be able to get some funding on that. So work in progress. And then the other MAD down at the end, that we believe that they are operating on airport land or part of it. So we talked about a surveyor. So the option there would be we go to them and talk to them and say, hey, either we need to fence you out and it'll really inhibit their operations, or you got to work with us and lock your gates.
So as an update to that, a few days ago, it's coming.
That was on Wednesday last week.
Yeah.
Thursday, maybe. Anyway, it was last week.
So I happened to run into them as I'm driving my golf cart back down there, and they go for walks on a taxiway. And one of the people there was one of the co-owners, goes in with his dad. And I mentioned to him, he says, yes, they already ordered the stuff for the gate.
Oh,
They're gonna put a
good.
coded gate up there to keep that.
Okay.
And so I think it's just to see if
It's just gonna be talking with them. And
Yeah.
just getting, once they've installed everything, is making sure that we can have a way to access the gate
So
as
that-
well. So whatever system they end up doing is just making sure they bring it to us
Yeah.
as well.
So
that
they're
we
very
can
cooperative.
It would be in their best interest to work with us. As far as the RV, you know,
That
there's
is-
nothing we can do
Yeah.
unless we have money to buy back the land.
that would be great if we buy the land, because that'd solve a lot of problems. Yeah.
So, and then,
There's,
and
need
then, you
hangers.
know, as far as our takeaways, I've got, you know, Dave was working on writing up some options for the operations facing the airport, and then Dominic was working on the key cards, and we rode around and we took pictures of all the vulnerability, and it was freezing that day, and the golf cart. So there's much more to come. We'll have a better readout, but it's you know, it's one of these things that this whole area, when we get into the next area, as far as the tiers, we need some funding to be able to really secure our perimeter. I mean, didn't we have an issue with people running up and down the runway this?
Yeah,
I
we had
mean,
a report of,
The frisbee, but they're not frisbees. You know, it's just,
plus a few months ago, Chase, there's some teenagers with their bikes out there.
a lot more work to be done, although this is an ad hoc. You know, once we address all the areas, we'll be able to roll it in.
One of the options we may have for funding for fencing is homeland security. That's where a lot of the airports,
right.
a lot of the airports have got
Okay.
funding through the security, or airport security.
Homeland security, that is an excellent suggestion. You know, when you walk around our perimeter.
Including the
Yeah, everything. They just, I mean, go look at Placerville, go look at Jackson.
Yeah, Placerville's great. They've got, it looks like a prison, for goodness
Yeah.
sakes.
So
Yeah.
Homeland security is financed.
Okay.
That would be excellent.
That's great.
Excellent.
fuel system is vulnerable, maybe they'll finance the fuels.
Don't think that, but they will take, they've spent millions of dollars in fencing here in the last 5 years.
And we also, I know Dominic put, you know, some feelers out to try to get some grants that were approved, and so we could maybe copy some of the approaches that others have used.
Placerville would be a good one for
Yeah.
Jackson, because I mean, you can't get into Placerville.
No, you can't.
That'd
Work in
be
progress.
excellent. Yeah, that's identifying the vulnerability.
Yeah, right.
Excellent. The schedule, item E here, schedule,
Quick
go ahead.
So was there an update on the car versus plane CCR stuff?
I need to follow up on that. I don't have anything for that for today. Yeah, I pulled that down. Okay, so I'm not prepared for that one.
My wife always tells me I'm not a very observant person, but I noticed coming into the airport the other day for the first time, there's a big sign that says aircraft have the right of way.
Which is
It's like
not- which is not
I've never
true.
noticed that before.
Yeah.
Also, according to Elmhurst County and airport property, aircraft.
I promise to follow up on that one. I have the documents.
The scheduling, the public meetings, item E here, we'll defer that till we talk about under new business, because that's under the scheduling. Fuel system replacement, I got to retitle this, it's kind of morphed into the ad hoc committee and it's part of our financing. Update from Dave Becker and street jurisdictions, which I think ties in that all, well, no, that ties into who has jurisdiction, CHP or sheriff, so. As I recall from that, of course, Dave's not here. Audit status, is there anything on?
Yes, the only thing is they sent some clarifying questions on our IT security and backups and capitalization policies, and I think there was a few more, but I think
There is inventory from Epic.
inventory from Epic, that's right, and then also Eldorado Savings Bank apparently didn't respond correctly to some of the requests that we made, so, but I think we've addressed them all. So.
Do we need to go talk to Eldorado Bank or?
Yes, we've taken care of it. At least from our end, I don't think we can do more at this point. The interesting part was just a little anecdote. Eldorado Savings said we had a 12.5 million credit line with them, which never existed.
Yeah.
So they don't have very good control of their,
Good thing we didn't spend it then.
but it expires February 22nd, so I guess we're in the clear again. But we never had that credit line, 12.5 million. That was a funny one.
We talked about this signs, I think we've satisfied that right now. The next step should be the volunteers to, then we get to install the and then go into the streets. Obstruction mitigation, I don't have an update. It's on my dance card after Salt here, but it is kind of pressing because trees are growing. We know we got some trees on Boeing to take care of. Minimum letter size for painting taxi in the end of Boeing. Glenn did the layouts and the calculations and also amount of paint we saved if we change the size of the letters.
Well, not only if we change the size of the letters, but if we just go with what I'm interpreting to be the minimum size for the letters.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll go to the blackout line or don't do black.
Don't do the blackouts.
Just do it as outlines to the letters.
Just as a quick view of the folks online, we used to have the X's. You can see what they've been, they tried to remove. Caltrans several years ago wanted us to get rid of that because it meant you can't drive anything on there under the FAA. Of course, they kept airplanes off of Boeing. So we did that. They wanted us to replace it with taxi. This would generate, we're gonna have contractors and look at it and what size. Anyway, so we're getting down, we decided we're gonna do it ourselves. We got a layout plan to how to make sure the paint stays straight. But then a question comes into the size because the FAA says they don't have any jurisdiction on the street. They don't, you know, it's streets, it's not theirs. So it's really up to Caltrans. So with the change at Caltrans, we've been kind of delaying a little bit, contacting them. I got a recommendation from Kevin, based on his experiences. Wait till they talk to us. Because they have a new guy and he may have a different approach on it.
That's what you just said.
Yeah, leave it the way it is. It's a Caltrans call, not an FAA call. And when we asked them about it, they says, don't talk to us. That's just, we don't do streets. We do runways and taxiways. Yeah. So that's kind of on hold if they could go.
I presume there's something in Caltrans regulations that gives them the power to dictate that to us.
Well, it's a good question. They certainly have it for airports, but there's also, we have airplanes operating in the street. So it's a good area. Well, it could be a pick our battles kind of thing, but it's a good question, but airplanes operate there and they seem to have. They're private streets, yeah. I guess we really wanted to, but it's a pick our battles. Yeah. We'll see. Okay, so now we go to the comments under old business. Okay, moving on to no new business. We got some more fun stuff here. First item of new business is to a proposal to transfer funds from our checking account. It's on the airport related to our airport restricted maintenance account. I'm gonna see, I'll show it here where you can show what can you just put together some data that shows our trend of how much money we've had over, I think, 3 years by month.
2.5 fiscal years.
Dig backwards
Go
on.
back to the start.
And so the proposed amount you see is going to be 25,000,
2019, I guess.
the 2019. And it's a interesting story. I'm going to pull up my spreadsheets here to see how we're doing. Okay, let me go ahead and share this. Then I'll have Canute run through it. You get back to my, because there's some other messages in the things that fall out of this. Okay, so you should see.
Sheet.
I'm sorry.
That's the graph that we should use.
I mean, let me make, see if we get this.
What sheet are you on? I think you're.
Oh, I'm on
sheet.
actual.
There you go.
Okay, so let me get this to go to full
Okay,
screen.
thank you. So I thought it would be interesting to see how have our balances in checking accounts, restricted accounts, and fuel developed over the years. And then I went back to 2019. This one doesn't have the trend lines. Yes, it does. Okay. So as you can see, is it okay if I go up and?
Sure, yeah. I just expand the graph a little bit here.
So each one of these lines represents either an account that we have or a total amount that we have after you subtract some things. So what you in general will notice is that there's a general upward trend on our total available funds, which is what we have in the checking account, what we have in the restricted account for streets. Well, actually, street is taken out, restricted account for the airport, what we have in the Epic fuel account. But then if you start adding in, oh, let me just take a few more. And so then you have down here, you have fuel. So you can see the blue line, I think, represents what we have in the fuel tank or the Epic account. So wherever we get fuel, then of course the money in the account goes down. So that matches one goes up. The blue line represents money from the other account. So you can see that the property taxes collected in December, they come in here, and then you can see that there's a bump in our checking account right there when we have that big flow of money coming in. So some of that then drops off to the assessment district right away to pay off the loan for that. So we only keep a little bit of the amount that we get from the county, which is the assessment of special tax. So you can see right here, we just had the December payment for 2021. Which gave a big bump up, but now they're going to take 54,000 out for the assessment district again. So, but even with that, you can see if you do a trend line for the total, it's going up. The one thing to note though is there's an infusion of $30,000 here in that was in January of 2021. That was the CARES money. Another 13,000 came in July. 19,551 came in here in October, and the final month, 12,499 came in December. So that's a total of 75,000 money that we got. But thanks to that, we already took 15,000 of that and put into the restricted airport, so it's now up to 24. It was at 9,000 for many years. Now it's back up to 24,000. What I'm proposing is that given this trend here, we take an additional 25,000 out of that 75,000 and put into the airport restricted for these big projects we have coming up. One is being the fuel system and whatever we need to potentially have as a matching amount for FAA grants to get to that point. So that would bring us up to a restricted, which is, of course, the board can move the money back, but it's intended that those money are reserved for projects like fuel system or engineering, whatever we need to do for for special projects, so they're not part of day-to-day operations. By putting them in the restricted account, it becomes more visible what money we have available, right? So we're not uncertain about what kind of money we need for daily operations to stay in the general account, but then, so I was trying to see what does it mean for this if we took out, if we didn't get the CARES money, so that would be the next sheet on this one. So
We
you
expanded.
can see now we have a downward trend instead of on our account. So what I did here was I took out the money that we got from the FAA due to CARES, and now you can see the trend lines are downward, which means that our operational cost actually kind of exceeds the money we bring in to some amount here. The trend line for the total stays about the same, and that is because we did transfer money to the restricted account, but it's barely just staying level, and that kind of
Alexander Bolin.
Because the money that we are operating from is only maintaining the airport at whatever level it is today. We have not improved anything at the airport over the last many years. But what I was arguing here was that we can take 25,000 of the CARES money and put it into the project account or restricted account. So that was what I'm proposing based on this analysis.
So the one that shows that COVID was a good thing for us financially.
Yes.
But it also tied, when we start talking about the bond measure, that's a bad slope going down there. If we didn't have good one. So that's be the next item. Also, the kind of have is, it seems 25,000 fits well with the analysis that really maintains a checking account, our day-to-day operations or tier one, as you'll see.
So
At about
$75,000 we got in grants. We have put 45,000 aside for projects, and 30,000 have been used for maintenance and repairs at the airport, and also for obstruction mitigation. So that's why it kind of hangs together. So otherwise, it looks like we are staying on budget pretty well, but again, we're not improving a lot of stuff up here.
Yeah, we're not maintaining the infrastructure.
Oh. The other thing I took out here was the manager's salary for the month. We didn't have a manager, right? For thanks to all the volunteers we ran the airport on that instead. So that's helped us
So
save.
this
money.
assumes the full-time manager and no.
Yes, it does.
And that slope is not good. But fortunately, we got $75,000 a month.
So that's what I would like to propose, that we set money aside for upcoming projects.
So that would increase our current restricted account, which we're carrying, it went 9,000, was up to around the 24,000. This takes up to about
50,000.
about 50,000.
Yes.
And it happens to fit in, as we'll see in the presentation for the board, when we talk about the for the airport doing tier 2 activities. That's the account for tier 2,
right?
For infrastructure, including the fuel system in there. So while it obviously doesn't change the total amount of money, as Knut said, it's maintained the visibility of how much we have in the tier 2 account. We get back to the agenda. Any comments or questions by the?
Yeah, is there a downside? I don't see, is there any downside to doing it?
I don't think so. I would like the board to approve it because it makes the money visible more as a project money than they're just in the big pool of money in the general account.
Are the accounts, are they interest bearing? Is the savings account it anymore?
No, we could potentially do that. That's what we've done with the assessment district account. So, but
That's a good question because
0.5%, I know.
Yeah.
exactly.
it's not very much, but we are making money.
we are making interest. We are making like 10 cents a month.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
If we don't pay for the restricted account, we're going to touch it for a while. Build up, we could do some type of interest. But the checking is checking,
Got it.
and checking is the day-to-day tier 1.
I think we
So,
can
so-
vote.
So I'd like to make a motion that we transfer the 25,000 into restricted.
A second.
Aye.
I would like the account.
Because that passes. Get back to the agenda here. which then ties into the next agenda. So this is a kind of a significant one. We're picking this back up from discussions from last year, but the proposal is now to initiate, and I've got some material on this. I'm going to run through first here. Basically, to formally start the process to include a ballot measure on the November 8th, 2022 general election. So let me get to that. And then let me do this first, and I'll have you do this. Yeah. For the full size here.
Yours says more words on it.
Yeah, well, this is the presentation of the board, our board meeting, but okay. This is thinking about, I just want to see, let me just go back. I think everybody can see it. Okay, so this is, I do it now, just get there. They say, okay, so this is the proposal. We ran through this 2 years ago, about the same time. Just initiate actions to include the CPAD ballot measure for the election, to increase a special tax on properties within CPAD. And the reason we call it special taxes because that's the way it shows up on the property tax bill. It just says special tax. And it's paid through the property tax. Of course, then it's at least for some people, it can be deductible. Just emphasize, this is not the final vote. We've got 2 more scheduled votes, the last one being final. The next regular board meeting on March 28th, we vote to continue and approve the mailing notices to residents, and you'll see more on that schedule. May 23rd, we go to the board, the formal introduction of and reading of the ballot measures and the initial vote to approve, and for continue. Then finally, on June 27th, the final measure with the wording is voted on, because we have to submit it to the El Dorado County Register of Voters by July 6th. And before that, there's a process of reviewing it with them. So required, just to let the board know what's going to be required here to meet with the submittal. We can go through the process. We've got to have prepare the notices to the residents. We have templates from last year. We have to hold 1 public meeting. You can see that in the schedule. At the end of that required period, at a CPAD board meeting, we formally introduce the ballot, and we get required to do that. That's May 23rd. And then instead of May 27th, we make the final vote on it turns out it's a resolution, and we're adopting the resolution. And we have to submit it to the county no later than the 6th. Schedule-wise, what that looks like, see if I can make this bigger. You've seen the kind of the charts before right here. But we're here at the February meeting. That leaves us about 130 days before it goes to submittal. Outlined down here is my proposal for the public meetings we've been talking about a while. And what I propose, Diane, we'll see if you would be prepared for this and see if you're available for it, to have it March 7th, it's on a Monday. Our first public information meeting to go over this. Right now, I just put in 4 in there, and my thinking on this is to make opportunities for public and targeted folks that we can invite to go for the information on this. You see up here, here's our 45-day period from the notices go out to the time we can we get initial approval. Schedule-wise, that's what it looks like. And after it goes into submittal, then there's kind of campaign to go do this. Actions to submittal, we're going to continue to refine, and this is through the Infrastructure and Finance Committee. Go through to continue to refine, validate the assumptions, developing the proposed fees. That's where we're really headed to. Prepare the notices to go out, of course, mail them. I'm not sure how you did that with Canute last time. It was putting stamps on the envelopes. But that was a lot of hold the meetings, developing the final recommendations based on feedback, because we're trying to have these information meetings, we'll get comments. And to prepare the text to go to the news cycles. Fortunately, I think that should be pretty simple this time, because we did a lot of that 2 years ago. This is primarily done through the Infrastructure and Finance Committee. And emphasizing your more participation in the committee. We need more help, because it's just pretty much Canute, myself, Jim Bray and some other people show up that end up doing that. And last year, then out of that sprung out a committee for Measure P as a separate committee to do the pizza parties and things like that. So then with that, oh, just to clarify, as a reminder that this ballot measure is voting by registered voters who live within CPAD. It may seem a little strange. It's different than assessment district, which is one vote per property. They don't have to be registered, but it's this whole separate system. And it's a super majority, 67% to pass. So that's what the ask is, and so for the background, Diane, present.
Yeah.
Let me switch it over. Oh, wait, I could have done it.
Drive it, sure.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on the screen, and if you could do your magic.
Are you driving the presentation or do you want me?
Oh, I'll share. I'm going to share. Have you do it. Sorry.
It doesn't matter.
You should be able to go ahead and do it.
All right, give me a moment here.
Sure, you're a better Zoomer than I am on.
Maybe you can see my screen. That is, you know, your screen sharing. All right. Great. Yeah, so this is a simple presentation, and the idea is we want your feedback. It is a draft proposal, and it's gone through just a couple of iterations based on input from the infrastructure and finance team. And what we tried to do is make sure that we've got some very clear proposals where people understand the cost and the benefits. And what we thought we would start with is as simple as it is, our district, who do we want to be? And I think, you know, there's a lot of difference in, you know, do we want to improve our air park? Do we just want to keep it going? But I think we can all agree, we don't want to lose anything we have. And I think that everybody who lives here does, even if they're happy with it exactly like it is, they don't want to see it go downhill. And I think to do that, what we need is this bottom bullet, self-sustainable for both financially and operationally. And there's a beautiful sunrise over Cameron Park Airport. Our governance is an opportunity as well as a challenge. One of the things that has come up a lot before is how we're structured as a very unique organization where we are a public airport and we've got an air park, and then you've got we've got our board that looks after both the air park and airport. And if we have people on the airport side that may say, hey, we don't want to fund the operations and for the public airport, and then it's not fair for us to do that. But then at the same time, we've got the people over at the airport side that are saying, hey, we shouldn't be funding the lifestyle of the people in the air park. So the idea is it's all of ours, and we're going to go nowhere looking at it that way. And we all have to contribute equitably across the board to make this work. And that's what we're trying to do. But the situation is we are not self-sustainable financially nor operationally. Just to ground yourself in this presentation a little bit, everything green, as you can see, it's kind of colored. Everything green is air park side. Everything blue is airport. And so you can see we've got the roads on the left and the airport on the side. Just a little bit about where our money comes from. And that goes over this in detail, but these are our little animal pictures. Here's our property tax. And that's what goes for our roads. And this is what we all pay for the bond payment resurface. But of course, guess what? That's work already been done. So, so all we have is this. And then on the airport side, the blue part is fuel, hangars, tie downs, transient parking. And then here's our $25 a month assessment that was established and remains unchanged since 1995, which is this kind of a head
Just
scratcher.
a clarification on the street side of property tax. That's what we get from the county. It's not a line item on our, it's
Right,
not a line item, it's just this allocation. of
but it's an allocation each property owner pays
Indirectly.
indirectly and it comes. Okay, thank you. So the financial action is needed now. We mentioned the special assessment covers the bond work done, so we've got really, we're trying to save, as we just talked about, but it's not going to be enough. Any future work would require another high interest bond. And on the airport side, the interest since 1995, at $25 is almost $50 in 2022, just interest. Because, pardon me? Inflation. And because of this, we are unable to meet this 10% requirement for grant money. So, just a little will go a long way on the airport side. If we can get over this hump, we can get a lot more done. We talked about the security, these huge projects that we would never be able to fund. And what happens because we can't get above that, it's just slow deterioration. We're until we've got lots of fuel and we lose our night operations again. And so it's critical. I think that is our message to everyone. Measure P, great attempt to try to mitigate this, and this is what it looked like. Measure P was $25 added to the air park assessment and $50 on the airport side. It had some slightly different provisions than we're going to talk about, but it was so close. So what we can tell by that is that it did have a lot of support. There were some people that didn't support it, and we're gonna talk to those people. But here's where we're at. Measure P last year, we were 10 votes short. So what that tells me is it was roughly right. It was roughly right. And so we don't want to throw out all of the good work, but what we're going to try to do here is to get some more feedback from the people, people who voted yes, but I think moreover people who voted no. Why? Is there something we can do to perhaps it's the money, perhaps it is the way that the process that you were concerned about, and so there are numerous reasons, and everybody's an individual, but we really want to make this a conversation, and we want to, instead of pitching it, we want you to tell us, and we're going to make some changes, and if we hear something different than we think we need to do, we'll make some changes. And that's one of the things that we heard from Measure P is people were not necessarily understanding the benefits. Well, what am I going to get? What projects are being proposed? And so Terry went and said, okay, let's make this a little easier. This is kind of a complex thing that we want to communicate. So he came up with these tiers, and I think everybody here has seen them, but it's a great way to categorize where we're at and what you get. You've got the tier 0, we're paying down debt, we're lagging repairs, things are deteriorating. Tier 1, we're able to do minor repairs, short-term operations, we've got no reserves. And this is it's like, having a house and gosh, you can fix the plumbing, but God forbid you need a new roof, or your heater breaks, and it's going to happen. And so, and tier 2 is we're self-sustaining. We can, if we are fuel, we can fix things, and if they're end of life and we need to upgrade them, we can do that. And tier 3 would be is some of the security items we were talking about. It could be on this side, it could be on the airport side. And that can be defined in many, many ways. But those are our 4 tiers. And so what we did is said, okay, where are we? For the streets, we're in tier 0. For the airport, we're in tier 1. And so that is unsustainable on both sides. So this one, I've got charts for every single scenario, and it's a busy chart, but it's one way, so I'm going to explain it, walk you through it, but it's a way that we can look at and compare the different options. So this is all the options with costs. Someone at the meeting, last meeting, said, hey, you got these tiers, why don't you price them for us? And I don't remember who said that, but it was a great suggestion, and that's what we did. And so Terry came up with this model. Oh my God, it just blows your mind. Very, very detailed. So as simple as microanimal charts are, there is a great deal of due diligence and work that went into coming up with these numbers. So here we've got our 4 tiers current. Here's what we have. We have $25 for assessment, and $25 goes to the airport. $0 of that right now goes to the street side. If we continue on this path and we do nothing, we're bankrupt by 2026. Around the corner. Okay. We start moving up. So as we move up, it gets a little better. And so let's say we added in $25, and we went to the people, we said $25. That would be, we split it 50-50, $12.50 to the airport, $12.50 to the roads. That would give us an inflation adjustment. It would buy us 4 more years. It isn't sustainable. It would help. We had a discussion in our infrastructure and finance meeting that said, well, what we could do is also add another $2,000 one-time fee for the streets for that. So that's one of the proposals that's sitting there. The next one up would be $50, option A, and that would be an additional $25 to each of the streets in the airport. And what that does is it moves each of the tier up 1. So we get the streets go from 0 to 1, and the airport goes from 1 to 2. And then option B is how do we get both to tier 2, which is sustainable. We can maintain what we have. If something breaks down, we can fix it. We're not going to get better taxiways. We're not going to be able to do anything new, but that's where we're at. And we didn't even price the next one. If we get a lot of feedback that says, hey, we think we can, we'll price the next one. But that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, just had a comment on.
Yeah, please.
For the airport, again, tier 1 means, as you pointed out, we kind of do the day-to-day operations, but we can't do it forever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess you can't do it really.
And so
Day-to-day operations before I've gotten the tier levels. Tier 2 for the airport. I'm sorry, not right here. Tier 1 for the airport. We get to tier 2, which means we're maintaining the existing infrastructure. So we're not doing anything new, we're maintaining.
This is all maintained.
Yeah, we may call it projects improvements, but it's improving the deteriorating
Yeah.
taxing. Tier 2 for the streets, or tier 1 for the streets in the definition, because it's a little trying to fit in here. You know, the basic street plan says we got to do slurry seal, then you got to do occasional crack seals, and you do a kind of, from the information I have, do 2 serially seals kind of through its life, and then eventually, maybe 20 years from now, I think we got to achieve in 21 years, have to do a resurface, and that can be very, very expensive. The definitions we're using with the $25 going to the streets, we can, based on all our assumptions and the cost, and using and assuming that the 200, I bumped up to 200,000 But the $25 gets us to that, that slurry seal, that steel coat in 2025. That then you spend the money and then it allows you to build up, say, the money to do the other, where you full on more higher grade slurry seal or something like that. But you can't save up enough money for in 21 years to do the to do the resurfacing, which it gets pretty expensive then. But what Diane's pointed out here, and that top line, the $56 no bond, at least basic information says you save up enough money to do it, just pay for a bond out of your savings or pay for resurfacing. That's the difference for the streets for the tier 2.
So
At some point, then also the bond repayback will go away. as
Yeah,
well,
the bond prepay.
Which I don't have in here, but that does go away. And that's an opportunity either for people to save money or for us to go back to the people and say, hey, we think we can allocate some of that money.
So the plus $56 with no bond, so that would bring it up to 162, and that would save enough to not have to do a bond when it came to a
That's
resurface
correct.
time.
Basic information I have now says in 20 years or so, 21 years, there's no bond. You should be able to pay for it.
You should be able to pay for it.
Right.
Yeah, and
The super restricted account, because it's going to be a lot of money.
Is that 7% inflation or what?
Yeah, but.
no, it actually isn't. It's 2.5. So
But-
we have 7% inflation.
Good luck.
We're this isn't gonna work. So.
Now, the kind of internal discussion you're having in the IFC committee is how far do you look? Kind of
Yeah.
thing.
We
Right.
did 20
Now-
years.
Yeah, so 20 years kind of says, okay, that option A fits within it. You can kind of fund the streets for that, keep them looking good till eventually you got to resurface it. Not fund the resurfacing. There may be a strategy once the bond is paid off in 2029 that you'd start kind of go for another increase to help save toward a eventual resurfacing. That's down the road ways.
Just real quick, I just
Good.
wanted to show this. When I started thinking about, as far as any homeowners association, what are the proposed assessments? Just, the California range, when you look it up, is 100 to 1,000, and California averages between 200 and 300. And I know you all have relatives who pay $250, $300 a month. What do they get? They get their lawn mowed and their light bulbs changed, maybe. But here we are, right here. Here is our deferral proposal, which was the plus 25. Here's our plus 50, and here's our option B, and here's Alpine Air Park. So, even with our option A, we're still below, not just the average, we're below the range. So I don't think it's unreasonable. But we need to have that discussion and find out what people are thinking.
I'm sorry, what are the units being shown here? Is this like per square foot or what are we?
Oh, this is a monthly,
It's
I'm
monthly.
sorry,
The
monthly.
monthly.
It's a monthly
Okay.
monthly
Right.
assessment. Yeah, I should,
Thank
thanks, Glenn. I should make that clear, but yeah, it's a monthly. So our monthly here is way below what would be expected to be paid in any California neighborhood. We've got an airport. So anyway, that's just this is kind of the boilerplate, the foundation, and then as Terry said, we want to get as many people here that know. I mean, it's great to see all your faces, to get your neighbors to come, and how we could get them to come, people who maybe aren't interested or who voted no. That's who we really want to talk to and have them tell us why. And what would it take? What are you concerned about? Is it that you just don't want to pay any money, or gosh, you thought it was this and it wasn't? Did we get some misinformation out there? That's any thoughts? Do you think it'll go?
Just so you know, from what I've talked to people, resurfacing these streets will give us the same results we have now with cracked up streets. Because of the underlayment, resurfacing these streets, we threw away 1.4 million last time. I don't know if we want to do that again. Because You can see how cracked up the streets are.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they were before we resurfaced them, and within 18 months to 24 months, all the cracks showed back up. And that was what they were supposed to get rid of by using the Petromat and the 2-inch overload, which it failed almost immediately.
Okay, so
And so that will never, I mean, we'll never be able to fix that.
right, so I
And
guess,
I've recently talked to some of the paving companies. And unless we want to really invest in the streets, approximately $10 million, we ain't ever gonna fix it. So the best thing to do is, instead of spending a bunch of money on something that's going to fail again, is to do more preventative maintenance. And the preventative maintenance is a reseal approximately every 5 years.
and that's, and you worked with Terry, and that's what's in here, correct? Or
I think I've
that's
got two. I've got two about 8 years or so apart, something like that. It's close.
That's what the $2,000 one-time assessment puts
Right.
us on top of that level, puts us right out of the gate for a reseal.
Right,
And then we're able to take that other money.
so what, for everybody else, what Bill's talking about is this proposal here, that would have an assessment that would be lower, with the 2,000 one-time fee. Now that being a sticker shock, I don't know how receptive people would be to be paying that.
I don't know either, but the thing is, that would get us, what we have a problem now is we're saying the streets are failing and they're cracking up, and that's
Yeah.
correct. And if we don't do something in the immediate future,
Yeah,
we're going to have more damage. So the streets, when this plan was proposed last time, when we did the $1,000 a month for 20 years, we're supposed to take care of that for 20 years.
yeah.
Well, it failed in about 6 or 7. So that didn't work, and we're gonna be paying for that for at least another 6 years. So we've already tried that and it failed.
Well, the good, understand the good news is
Well,
we
we're
got
not
time
proposing
before we
that.
have to do
Right.
something major again.
So the thing is if we did the $2,000 assessment per property, that would give us approximately $240,000, which would be enough to reseal the streets and give us a little buffer.
Yeah, no,
And then be able to take and acquire more money in the long run. And that would bring us up to the 2029 point where the $1,000 goes away. And we're able to have some money in the bank to, again, seal the streets again.
but the problem with that is you're taking care of the streets, but the airport is not sustainable. So if we, if we did that, maybe we could reallocate that, because this is the
What
problem.
the analysis show for the street side, you know, run the model, doing $25 a month is about the same, it's the same thing as taking $2,000 one time. The difference is $25 a month gets you to the point you can do the resealing at the price, the steel coat, and then you continue to collect it. So it actually keeps building it up, and allows you to do a variety of things, you know, in the future, take care of it.
Well, my concern is we, I guess, have a problem now. And if we defer the fixing the problem for building up the money to address the problem, then we have a larger problem. We do the one-time $2,000 assessment, we come in, we fix the problem, and we start taking and banking the money to be able to address it when we think it's gonna happen again.
The comment have is that, you know, that the 25 months gets us to be able to do that sealing in 2025. The assessment district is a whole different animal. We've got to get, you know, it's done for, we're not real familiar with it, but it's not done through the county, it's not done through the laws. We got to get the legal people or whatever involved, and they do the voting and stuff. It's not an easy thing, and it's a time consuming thing to go do, if you understand. So that would have to be probably done next year, because we can't run a measure and an assessment in a single year. I mean, we're volunteers. And so that means it would happen next year at best, which means the money wouldn't come in until 2024, which is about the same time you have it for the $25 a month.
The only thing I'm thinking is we've made an attempt to raise the fees since I've been here, probably 4 or 5 times in the last 20 years, and all have failed. And with the current economy and what's gonna be the economy that looks like in the near future, I don't know what people are gonna do. I would hate to see it not pass again. Now, the only thing with the $2,000 one-time assessment, it has to pass with 51%, not 67%. So I think that you would take it with the two proposals, the one with doubling the fees would pass. And then with the $2,000 one-time assessment for the 51% would pass. So that means we would take and be moving ahead. If we would have done something even 10 years ago for doubling the fees, we'd have approximately $375,000 in the bank.
Well,
But we don't, no, we can't go back.
we can't go
No,
back.
we can't, but the thing is you have to take a look at what
Well,
has
in
happened.
10 years, if we don't do anything, there'll be nothing left to fix, is what the bottom line. The reality of it is, we've been, over the years, protein, we're getting close to this crash point. 10 years, you know, if we don't do anything, the streets will be whatever they are, the runway's going to deteriorate, fuel system, there's nothing left. You know, then our property values just go down. So we can't take a long time to accumulate money gradually, because the 12.5 in a run, it doesn't keep up with inflation. The way the division of income and stuff doesn't, it gives us 4 additional years.
It's a different viewpoint on
Yeah.
the same subject.
I'm just saying, that's
Yeah.
the analysis. But
And my thoughts are, well, when we have a public meeting, we'll.
Yeah.
I think we should, and you know, my big concern on that is obviously the work and the fact that the airport isn't cared for in that scenario at all. And I think we have to do both sides. But that's my opinion. So
Right.
let's hear from
Sure.
some other, any folks, what do you think?
I think if you do that, you're writing off the airport.
Pardon?
You're writing off the airport if you do that. You're just accepting you're gonna be in tier 0 for a few years and it goes down.
we eventually becomes tier 0, and then we don't have an airport.
happen sooner or later.
Yeah.
You don't want it to happen. So
I mean, my opinion is if nothing happens, you know, substantially to take care of this stuff, it's gonna end up going back to the county. That's my opinion.
which means it'll be low income housing.
Well, it'd be low income housing, yeah.
Because
I don't think it can do that. The reason why I don't think it can do it, when the property was originally granted in the county, it was granted in perpetuity as an airport.
Well, I understand, but we've seen what has happened to Santa Monica and other airports that had FAA grants that said you got to keep it open for whatever, 30 years. And
they
shut
cut a deal to put the CPAD, you know, in charge of have fiscal responsibility for the airpark and the runway. If they can do that with the stroke of a pen, they can take it
away.
back with the stroke of a pen.
You can't, it would revert back to the property of whoever donated it to the county.
Do you think
They certainly could take it back with the stroke of a pen, but if you look historically what happens, you'll notice there are no new airports unless they're being built outside of Denver. There are no new airports. Once it's gone, this is it.
You think we could identify, I mean, we were so close, I mean, I know that it hasn't passed, but okay, so this proposal, the second one is under Measure P, and we've got 10 people to convince, assuming that all the ones that voted for P would continue.
Just another direction, maybe to look at this to leverage favor of this. People who vote on this are residents of this community here. Yet this is something that would be applied to people on the other side of the airport, on the commercial side of the airport.
That's right.
So I guess my first question, how does that even work legally, where we're voting for something that will be imposed on them? But they have interests too, and maybe they don't vote on it, but maybe there's incentive there that can be.
It's a good.
Contribute in some way.
You know, that I missed that point in here because there's another slide. The idea, where is that one? Okay. The idea is to also go to the airport side, and we're asking for the people here to contribute, both for our streets and for this, but we also are going to go to the airport side and the hangar rents of tie downs, and really look at the income and there's another, and so the idea would be to do it at the same time, and so they are contributing We're contributing, I guess, we're over, we're on both sides.
Because I'd say between this side and that side, and even within this
Yeah.
side, there's, a lot of tunnel vision going on, that this isn't gonna affect me. No, it's gonna affect
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
I think to your point, Glenn, because we picked up before, it is a lopsided system because pieces like Maine Air and Millennial will have to pay for this.
Right.
Because it's set up under the state laws, because usually a special district is a water district or a recreational district for the people inside. We're a little weird, but that's the law we have to follow.
Sure, that's a lot, but the bottom line is, if something isn't done, everyone's going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's about where we're at. You've been saying that we're on the trajectory, we're getting closer and closer. Now we got inflation, that's really accelerating. One other point, the difference between last time and this time is the ask for the airport side is much less in terms of budget, because one of the lessons learned is, well, what we've done here is we're focusing on maintaining existing infrastructure, not improvements, kind of putting that tier 3 category. So technically that may mean the AWAS upgrade at 30,000. That's an improvement, falls in tier 3. And that's a relatively low,
What about
relatively low.
What about the gas tanks?
Gas tank is existing infrastructure.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
a lot of money. You gotta
It's a
come
lot
up
of
with
money.
the cash.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. Yeah, and
And the
that's included.
Ticking time bomb.
Yeah. And also putting the money into these tiers, but the other for financial for the airport, what's not in the budget compared to last time is increasing the salary, the manager's salary, or at least putting funds aside to hire additional people we wanted to. That's what lowered this down to get to the $25 as opposed to I think we have the $50.
Yeah.
Well, there's more pilots on the aircraft here than one few that we lost.
Yeah.
Because we gained a few more pilots. And, I mean, for $80 million, we can't get here to fly an airplane. For 1 hour.
I can taxi for that. Yeah.
So that's really inexpensive. And Pine Mountain, they're paying about $350 a month.
Where at now?
Pine Mountain,
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's unbelievable. We've got a nicer setup there, much nicer.
Yeah.
They don't even maintain their taxiways at all. Half of them, you can't even get an airplane through for the trees. So, I mean.
Well, that's what we want to have those information meetings. This was kind of a trial run to point this out. Yeah, because yeah, it's cheaper. Big picture things. Our airport's cheapest because it's 10% man.
Talk about the plumbing property. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's even just plumbing, but we'll have to.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
curious on the 67% requirement for the vote, is that 67% of the properties or 67%?
The voters.
The
The voters.
And see, not all the properties are.
Yeah, there's renters, lots of renters out there too.
I just 2 houses with 5 people in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
That's the skewed thing about that.
That's the difference of doing it with the one-time assessment. It's 1 vote per property. In other words, if you have a vacant lot or you have the biggest house here. And so that's the difference.
And it doesn't matter where they live.
You get 1 vote. No. on a
No,
one-time assessment.
on this, the ballot measure on the general election is registered voters that live in the district. So you could have people here own property, but they don't live here. They don't get a vote. That's different from an assessment. That's different from the district, yeah. The assessment district, which is a bond that was done to pay for the roads work. Yeah, it's 1 property, it's 1 vote per property. So it's not under a general election. It's run by an accounting firm or something here. If you own property here and you live in Connecticut, with an assessment district, you get to vote, 1 vote. Oh, I'm sorry? Yeah, and this measure you wouldn't vote on, you wouldn't be able to vote on. Yeah.
Even though I want to vote 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, right, yeah.
We get
But
to-
what you
but
can
we're gonna
do,
make that happen.
but what you can do is help get the information out there. And when we have these, because when we formally submitted, like last year, there was a committee for the Measure P that passed, and there was donations made to that to buy pizza and signs, and and we had basically information meetings there. But the purpose of these information meetings, just as Diane has done, before we make the final vote, is to get feedback.
like Mike was saying, there's a lot of other areas. I know that my brother-in-law lives across the freeway with the estates over there, and they just had an assessment increase. And it's way more than what we pay here, and they don't have anything. except a bunch of
Yeah.
roads.
See, and the difference here that people say, they want to pay taxes. With the government, our government, very local government here is the CPAD district. And we know we run the airport. We don't get money from the county for that. And we also have to take care of the street pavement. We don't do the CCR and architectures and all that. It's a pavement. This is the government here.
Right.
And you're seeing that the money's going,
That's
yeah.
one thing that I see, I'm traveling across the country and so forth. The counties realize that airports are an asset, and they do participate a lot in the county. I have a hangar also back east, it's a county-run small airport, and boy, they're a whole lot different than the folks that I moved to California. And to see a county like Colorado really doesn't care about this place. I mean, they're missing the boat as far as I'm concerned. This is a hell of an asset that they should have.
And with the concern with the pressure, here's my personal concern, with the pressure, you've seen all the stuff building all around us. If 5-10 years from now, or maybe shorter, they see, some developer or city councilman comes along, they see this airport just degraded, residents don't care, go after it. They're not going to fight. They're going to do anything to keep it. Because it's, after all, it's falling apart, or they just wait till it just goes away.
I think last year was pretty much full, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like you said, there's a lot of growth going on in the hills.
Yeah, build more houses up here, I think, north of, just north of.
My question, and this kind of goes to Diane's thing is, I don't know many folks that didn't vote for this last time. I mean, I know a few, but the big question is getting them to come out to see a presentation like this, where we can have, a good exchange of ideas and I assume everybody knows some, 1 or 2 people that voted no, and they have their reasons for that. But it's like, how do we get those folks to come out and even participate in some of this and give feedback? I mean, there may be.
And that's what we want to target for the
Yeah,
information.
but how do we get that? How do we
I
get
don't
those?
think we actually say it. I say we send out an email and say, did you vote no? And there's a few we want to talk to.
I mean, we did
And
the.
we want to hear from you. We don't want to sell anything to you. We want to hear. We want you to give you the mic.
So for the record, I voted no.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know people who voted no, and you've had the mic, so.
But we did several of these pizza parties
But
last
yeah.
year to get information out, and
And it was
the same people were every
And
time.
so, until, you think you're in a great spot because everybody around you is saying,
Yeah.
yeah, and then, and that's what we don't want that
I
to
was under
happen.
the impression that a lot of the people who voted no were doing so because they were not coming to the meetings, but because they were hearing things through other people who were taking lead of the no movement.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was some misinformation out there.
No to PD movement, and the people leading that are the ones those followers are going to listen to, not an email saying, come talk to us.
I don't think there's a lot of people in this community, if you sat down and had a nice civil presentation, this is what you get for this money, are gonna say, no, I'm not gonna spend $25 because I don't care if the roads go to shit. They want to live here too, and something looks good. They may not want to spend $500 a month, but if they're not seeing what that $25 or that $50 is getting them as far as benefits to their community, and if you can't get them in the door, you can't tell them.
See the long-term viability of the community that
Exactly.
exists, and I think there might be some prevailing attitude. And I don't know that I don't want to say that it's a distinguish between pilots or non-pilots, plane owners and car. I don't even want to go there, but if they don't even see that, they say, I don't care if the airport falls, I still have my house.
Well,
And there might be some of that too. I'm not.
What happens when you have a pothole in the middle of your
Yeah,
driveway?
It's short sight.
It's not going to get fixed.
Short sight.
sure, nice says if the airport closes, you still got streets.
Yeah.
And the
well,
county doesn't take
you burn
care
out,
of
right?
So
Well, let's set the meeting and maybe we can all go out and talk to folks and for your suggestion, Glenn, let's see if we can get people to come, go.
Yeah.
You know, we can do the email, but we could also go out and Bill, talk to no voters and.
Yeah,
and
that's
that you
be-
know.
because the reality of it
and
is,
say, will you come,
Just come listen.
Well,
or talk?
I have talked to quite a few of the no voters, and that's how I came up with the plan I did, because I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna vote yes for it, but anymore, they're gonna vote no again.
But do they know that $25 a month increase will just buy us bankruptcy for 4 years?
What I think they're concerned about is the past waste of money. we give away.
and that's something
Which-
trying to
But
do
the
it.
thing is, we can't change.
We
it.
can't change it.
Right. So
And
let
the
me,
only thing I can say is when you go for a loan at the bank, you say, don't look at my past history. This is what I'm gonna do in the future, and we're gonna pay you well.
Well,
That's how we work it, is we look at your past history. And since the past history has been so bad,
I will say the difference though in that is that the person who goes to the bank, they've been living for like 30 or so years and they made all those mistakes. These people up here change, like. every
Right, that's the
years,
biggest-
and that's what happens is
Right.
that you can't go to them and say, look at what we've done, because everyone here has been working their tails off to try and get this all together, and they only have, how long is the term on the board?
4 years.
4 years. You can't change the 10 years ago change within like.
and I agree with you. The problem is this isn't a 10-year problem. This is a 50-year problem.
Yeah.
That in arrears, that there's been
But-
problems for the last 50 years.
it also operates on both sides, so both ways, and it's just a comment to that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. So two comments. One, to try to, because board members will come and go, in 4 years and then staggered and all that. Trying to put things into here like the tiering structure, like the reserve accounts, to try to put a process so that the boards will adopt and stuff. We've got to work on a policy that's going to check how to handle the accounts that the boards will, have to follow. The other side of it is you sitting out there. Because if nobody's sitting there and nobody's watching the board, what happens to people's motivation?
And
That's
what-
so the key to keeping the boards and doing the right things, as you have been doing, Logan, is sitting there and talking to us. Good. That's what the board needs, because this is the government. What people can't do is just assume these volunteers,
Somebody else is gonna take care of it for me.
somebody else is going to take care of it for you. That's the worst thing, and that's why we're on the trajectory now.
And that's what this may be the best board that we've ever had. It doesn't mean in 4 years, we're still gonna have a good board and
But it takes the continuity of people like yourself and others who say, why are you going to spend money on this? Don't we need to do X and opposed to Y? That's what it takes to keep the board, on its toes. Because, the bottom line is government, we're all volunteers here.
I agree, and you guys are doing a great job.
So
I
would
know.
you agree it's reasonable to assume that even the people who voted no want to retain their property values, don't want to lose their ass on their house? They want the community to continue to exist, or is that?
I think that your premise is a good premise. The only problem is talk to a stockbroker 3 months ago, and he's gonna invest you high in something in Ukraine. And all of a sudden, things change.
I'm just trying to
You're
go back to what I'm saying is, where are we gonna, you got, if you want to try to solve this, maybe to find what do we agree on before we start talking about what we disagree?
I think that's why I came up with the proposal I did, is for the board to get an influx of cash and for the people that are paying the money to see how their money is spent. Versus give me a whole bunch and you don't have to worry about it anymore, I can take care of it. That doesn't work.
But if that influx, if you run the pro forma cash numbers and that buys you another 4 years, is that really solving the problem, or is it just making you feel better for a few more years? Why can't, how do we get the message that let's look long term? Let's not look at this as a 4-year discussion. Let's look at this long term. How do we do that?
I do that. You do that by getting confidence from the people that are paying the money. And if you don't have the confidence, which a lot of people don't have the confidence of what's happened with the money they paid out, and the money they're currently paying.
They're, so, you know, we need to wrap this up.
We need to get them in here
Yeah, we need to
in
get-
order for us to give them confidence, so.
Because,
You want to start with $1 million or 5 million? Or 100?
Well-
That's the thing, and so if you start out with a smaller amount and you see that the board and the tax money is being used appropriately, then you get more. If you just say, give me a big amount, and you don't have to worry, I'll take care of it.
well, we don't have much time to do this because the analysis and all the depends on inflation says we got about 10 years, maybe 10 years. And, you know, some of the analysis we got it's 4 and 6 years. I tell you, if this doesn't pass,
So.
it's good luck getting the board is going to try to do this again. And so, yeah, that's reality.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is when I first came here about 20 years ago, I went to a board meeting and we had less than $1,000 in the bank. And so the boards have taken and done appropriate
Yeah.
things where now we have a higher balance. I mean, we were ready to file bankruptcy 20 years ago. And so the boards have done a good job of pulling us out of that pit. And that's happened. So now we can take and go, well, we've done a good job. We're asking for a little bit more. We're going to do some more with it. And we're going to show you how well we're going to do. Remember, this has been up 5 or 6
Yeah,
times
but
in the last 20 years and never
It
happened.
comes up again and then, and 4 years from now, it's a different board. You got different set of people. In 3 years, my term is up. We got terms having to hear. In 4 years from now, there's going to be a completely different set of people here, I hope. And so where does it end?
So what would happen? I'm just saying, because I think that the people the no voters that I talked to, I'm speaking for them. If they would vote for what I propose, what's going to happen if they don't? Where are you going to be after this vote when you have?
Well,
this
it's
failed
not
again?
it's where all of us are going to be.
Well,
because
no,
of
but
this.
the thing is I have to, that's what I'm saying. So all of us will be in the stew.
So will they.
And so they,
Right, but
so,
Bill, why doesn't your proposal address the airport? It does a good job at the streets, but it doesn't address the airport. The 1250 just doesn't
Doesn't
cut
do
it on
anything
the
for the
airport side, and I mean, that's where I get hung up on your proposal.
and so
Why is it so did you allocate it that way, and would you consider amending it so it did something for the airport?
the airport is a public entity, correct? It's not a private entity, it's a public entity. And so the public usually, or the taxpayers that surround them are being asked to support it. And I understand, because I fly, I got 2 airplanes, I got probably as much money invested in my properties that I own here as anybody here in the airport. I mean, it's gonna hurt me worse than anybody. I got a couple $1 million invested there. Everything I got's paid for. So I'm gonna get hurt bad. But what I'm doing is trying to support the people that don't have the money to continue to pay an extra $81 a month. There's a lot of people here that are not working, they're retired, they're fixed income, they're barely getting by. And all of a sudden, when we take and say, well, you gotta give us another $81 a month, they don't have it.
Yeah, but $2,000, I mean, it takes 7 years at $25 a month for $2,000.
so I say for the same people, how do they come up with $2,000 one time?
You know, I mean, if I'm one of those people, I don't know if that's gonna be maybe. be attractive.
Everybody's gonna have their own.
Everybody's gonna have their own thing, but back to your comment on, okay, so it's a public airport, where does it get its money then?
Well, normally a public entity.
Normally,
So let's say the Park and Recreation Department is paid for by all of the community.
but ours is not, it's not.
Ours is
the way
not.
it's
That's
structured.
correct. And so going back 35 years or so, the people voted to do this to us.
Right,
And so there's no going, you know, I know
it
we,
is our structure.
right,
It
and
is
so
what we
it's,
have to work with.
right. So we have to figure out a way to make it pay for itself. And I think we can do that. I think there's some things that aren't fair right now that the airport is looking at addressing. One, some of the things being fairness factor of the current assessment. We have one place where there's, what is it, 12, 14 hangars, and they pay one fee to the airport. for use of the
Yeah, agreed.
airport.
We
Yeah.
all agree to
Yeah,
that.
we
You
all
are so
And-
right.
And so that's a fairness issue. We have other fairness issues that are the same thing. So what you want to do is you want to take and fix those fairness issues. So the other people that are paying the funding go, well, look what they've done. They fixed this issue. That's making it more fair. And they fixed this issue, and that's making it more fair. Putting the burden totally on the property owners.
But it's not, that's what we're saying.
Well, what-
Okay, so
but the
thing-
we need to be more specific
Yeah.
on what's happening on the airport side then.
Right, so in other words, the airport side needs to support itself
Okay,
along with.
we
the-
need
the
to
homeowner.
be more,
Well, we need to, because we know the,
we need to say, we need to have those numbers, and
Yeah.
we need to be more prescriptive,
because actually,
not on that side.
Yeah.
And, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it fair to?
If we did that,
I think we should get more people to vote yes.
would you?
Don't know, I have to see the proposal first.
All right, so.
I mean, that's.
So, let's tell you what, it's been an excellent discussion. We passed our 2 hours,
Sorry.
but this is the kind of discussion we want to have at the information meetings have and get a much broad opinion, as we can on it. That's why we want to have it before
I'm
we do
getting
the
the
final.
book.
So, yeah, because I know for myself, I got to work early tomorrow morning.
All right,
So what here is, we're here tonight. The final, real thing is to vote on proceeding with the ballot, which sets us up to say for the further outlines. So based on so we had 2 parts of the discussion, doing the ballot measure and the need for it, and then we had kind of our preliminary information here and got some good feedback. So for the board, for voting, are there any comments on proceeding with the ballot measure?
Going ahead with the process.
They're going ahead with the process. It's not an amount. Right. It's not the amount. It's just going together with the process. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we proceed with the ballot
I
measure.
second it.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the match passes, and we'll proceed with doing the ballot measure.
All right.
For the rest of they're relatively simple, but I propose let's defer it given the time. They're not time critical, and we'll handle them at the next meeting.
Great.
And I just had one quick note here, just to recognize Malcolm Cooksey again for what he did in the airport office for his Eagle Scout project. So I'm going to conclude here, just saying this was a good discussion. Thank you, Phil.
And
It's
yeah,
important,
Thank
yeah.
you, everybody,
Yeah.
for coming. I like
So
seeing more faces.
So what date are we shooting for this public
Yeah.
discussion?
I'm going to check with you because it's also.
Yeah, that works. I can do that.
The 5th, okay. It's Monday,
Is that next month?
March 7th.
Oh, okay. I'm
Is
here.
that next Monday?
Next
I think
Monday.
it is.
It's next
Yeah.
Monday.
And I think it's got to go out as a special board meeting.
Yeah, no,
if
we
you want.
can do that. We just have to, recruit the people.
Yeah. And I think it'll be for the board members here, in order to have all the board members be able to attend, it has to be a special board meeting. So
Yeah.
we have to go through that process. When we get to the measure X committee, whatever it is, then it's a different process.
We can
I
So-
would
hijack,
suggest that it add more participation. You may want to send out a big email to everybody.
Oh, yeah, there'll be several,
we could hijack the St. Patty's party.
yeah. Yeah, well, that's another issue I'll talk about, yeah. 'Cause
Jerry, the hangar's available for any.
Oh, thank
Oh,
you. That's
that'd be
fantastic.
great.
That'd be
I
excellent.
think
Yeah.
face-to-face is gonna be really important.
Yeah.
It doesn't work on Zoom.
It doesn't work on Zoom.
So Phil, what else would entice them? Donuts, cookies, what?
No, that's illegal.
Coffee?
Yeah, I don't think we could do that during the board meeting.
You look at that? That'll get you.
Having coffee at a board meeting?
Board meeting fine, pointed that out. If you want to try and entice people by giving a gift.
No, I mean,
No, yeah.
But I'm just saying, the last board was in the which was right on the
Well,
verge of.
We had, those pizzas were at the committee for Measure Peace, not for board
I'm just
functions.
telling you, that will get you in serious trouble.
That was not board
It's illegal.
function.
You're trying my vote. So I wouldn't do this.
Yeah, we had that was all into the committee last time.
I wasn't buying, but I wanted to entice him to come here to listen.
And have a board meeting.
We are,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
That's
So-
the deal with trying to buy those, like, gifts.
Yeah, that is. This is any of the comments. I'd like to go and see our next regular board meeting is March 28th. We'll have a special one like we had before. Let's no other comments. I'd like to go ahead and adjourn the meeting and close it out at 9:10. Thank you. Hey.
Yeah, we should, okay. Yeah. Terry, beautiful model.
Yeah.